There are some devil fruits in the world of One Piece that make me wonder, was Oda really thinking of creating such a ridiculous power? Because my friends, some fruits in this universe are completely useless. They're incredibly weak. Come closer and I'll show you which ones they are. Jake, Nomi, Kelly Funk. To kick things off in the best way possible, I couldn't leave out this classic. This fruit simply allows you to transform into a jacket. That's right, the user turns into a coat just to be worn by someone else. The only remotely positive thing about it is that it can give a slight strength boost to the person wearing it, but the user themselves becomes completely useless, even in the cold. If they're freezing, all they can do is keep others warm while they suffer in the cold. Honestly, I'd confidently put this fruit in the top 3 of the worst devil fruits ever. Berry, Nomi, very good. This fruit was consumed by the Marine Captain, very good. Its power is somewhat similar to the Bara Nomi of Boogie, but trust me, it's way weaker than the clown's fruit. On the positive side, this fruit grants the user complete immunity to direct attacks like punches and kicks. Whenever someone hits them, whether in the stomach, arm, or face, that body part turns into bouncing balls that the user can control. At first glance, this might seem somewhat useful, but in reality, it's much weaker than you'd expect. Once they transform into balls, their body becomes vulnerable. In other words, just hit them again, and they'll take even more damage. If the user had significant speed while in ball form, it might have been a decent fruit, but when we see it in action, it's clear it's too slow, even failing to dodge a pre-time skip Frankie attack. So yeah, it's pretty weak. Ainu no Mai, Dachshund model, Lasso. For me, this is, without a doubt, the most bizarre devil fruit of all. Let me explain this madness to you. Basically, Lasso is Mr. Four's cannon. Somehow, this cannon ate the Inu no Mi, the dog fruit. Yes, you heard that right. A weapon literally ingested a devil fruit and turned into a dog. So Lasso, which was once just a simple cannon, gained a dog's head and 4 legs, allowing it to walk freely on its own. In the end, it didn't gain any new features in terms of firepower, but it did turn into a dog weapon hybrid that can think and move independently. Sure, the fruit seems even more ridiculous because it was consumed by a cannon, but let's imagine for a second that a human ate it. What would they even gain? Would they turn into a tiny chihuahua? If so, this fruit would be completely useless. Hito no Mai, Chopper. Chopper's fruit is shown as being quite useful, especially since it lets him shift between reindeer, human, and monster forms. The problem is that this fruit is only useful for 2 reasons. First, because he's a reindeer. This allows him to transition between reindeer and human forms, giving him more versatility in combat. Second, because Chopper is, well, a bit of an addict. Thanks to his rumble balls, he can further enhance his ability to change his body shape to adapt to battle circumstances. Now imagine if a human like Zoro ate this fruit, it wouldn't do a thing. Well, actually, Oda once said that if a human ate this fruit, they'd just become smarter. So if someone like Zoro ate it, the most they'd gain would be a sense of direction. Caterpillar fruit, Epoida. This fruit doesn't have an official name, but it was one of the worst things we saw during the Paramount War. It's used by Epoida, and let's be honest, it's a weird and pretty disgusting power. With it, he can keep his human head and hands, but caterpillar parts grow on his chest, with the colorful stripes on his shirt seemingly merging with them. His forearms also become larger and stronger, and of course, he gains more hands. At most, he gets increased durability, but the grotesque appearance he takes on makes this one of the worst devil fruits out there. After all, in a world with fire, ice, and light fruits, I'm pretty sure no one wants to turn into a giant caterpillar. Poke no Mi, Flamenco. Next up, we have the pocket fruit, used by Flamenco, the 6th Division commander of the Whitebeard Pirates. He can use any part of his body as a pocket, and these aren't your regular pockets for holding wallets. Flamenco can store massive items inside his body. For example, during the Marineford War, he pulled out a gigantic hammer from his body and used it to take down numerous Marine soldiers at once. We don't know the exact size limit for the objects he can store, but since he could hold a huge hammer, it's likely he can store almost anything or even creatures within his pockets. The problem is, this power isn't particularly useful in combat. These stored items generally aren't versatile enough. Imagine someone like Sanji eating this fruit. It would be completely useless. Flamenco only makes it work because he fights with a massive hammer. Without that, it would be absurdly useless. Mogu no Mi, Miss Merry Christmas. This is a Zoan-type fruit that gives its user the ability to transform into a mole. It was consumed by Miss Merry Christmas, a member of Baroque Works. When she transforms, she can dig underground tunnels like a mole and use them to reposition herself and attack opponents from behind with her claws. At first glance, this fruit might seem to have interesting features, and to some extent it does. It was effective enough in Alabasta to deal significant damage to Usopp and Chopper. However, when compared to other fruits like the swim fruit, the mole fruit falls far behind. It's slow for mobility, and once used, its techniques become highly predictable and easy for opponents to counter. Guru Guru no Mi, Buffalo. The Guru Guru no Mi, or Spin Spin fruit, was consumed by Buffalo, a member of the Don Quixote family. This devil fruit allows Buffalo to create propellers on his body, enabling him to fly with ease. Additionally, he can use his propellers to attack enemies and launch objects or people. A notable example of this was during his fight against Frankie, where he hurled Baby 5 at the cyborg using the speed of his propellers. He can also use his body as a vehicle to carry allies or even generate storm-like gusts. Hearing all of this might make the fruit sound versatile, capable of being useful in the hands of a clever user, but in practice, it's garbage. Think about all the aspects I mentioned. Now imagine, all of those abilities are far weaker than you'd expect. The propellers, which should theoretically be the fruit's main weapon, can easily be stopped by any character with decent training. As a result, this fruit is pretty useless in combat. And by far, the weakest thing of all is the person who leaves this video without subscribing to the channel. If you've made it this far and still haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. It's free, takes just a second, and helps me out after I've entertained you for 10 minutes of your day. Thank you so much for your attention, a big hug, and see you next time.